Okay, hi. So thanks for sending in your task 1 along with your task 2. Let's take a look at what you wrote. The topic for your task 2 is longer working hours. And countries that have them are more economically successful. Let's see what you said. Experts throughout both the developing and developed world have debated whether the countries with long average working hours are economically more successful than those with less working hours. This essay will discuss both sides to prove arguments with examples. All right, there are 2 problems with this introduction. First of all, you really took a lot of this straight from the task, and that is something you can't do. Let's take a look. Here, look. Countries with long average working hours. You change the word hours and that's it. Instead of time, you wrote hours, but essentially it's the same thing. And then are economically more successful than those. So this whole section is entirely copied from the task. An examiner is going to look at that and absolutely mark it down for being lifted from the task. There's no new vocabulary, there's no new sentence structure, nothing. So be careful with this. The second problem is that you have not answered the question directly. There's a question here. To what extent do you agree or disagree? It's not enough to just discuss both sides, but you actually have to address and answer whatever command they have given you here. You really need to do this in your introduction if you're aiming for a band 7 and higher. Band 7 in task achievement tells us that you need to have a clear position throughout your response. Throughout means from the beginning to the end. So make it clear from your introduction, okay? Firstly, there is ample evidence that innovative technologies such as computers have helped to increase performance in producing goods, facilitated communication, and enabled more extensive networking and cooperation among firms. By using machines, tools, and coordinating with human effort, I don't understand that. By using machines, tools, coordinated with human effort, can do the work more efficiently and make organizations more productive as compared with employees who work for long hours. Okay, for instance, during the 1890s when automobile companies were established, they worked with their hands and used hand tools instead of machines, which took more workforce and time than today. What's going on here? Which took more workforce and time, while today the same work is done with machines with fewer employees and more efficiently. All right, so what are you telling us here? You're telling us that you're on the topic, but you're not answering the question really. It's not entirely an on-topic response. Let me explain to you why. Now, here's why. The question isn't asking you if we can be more productive using technology than if we work longer hours. The question is asking you something entirely different. Is a country with longer working hours more economically successful? Okay, so it's not about the efficiency happening, but it's about the overall effect on a country's economy. This is what we're looking at, and not, comparing just, machines and technology and how that helps to create products more efficiently than if people work more manually but with longer hours. Do you see the difference? Okay, one is looking at bigger picture, the effect on a country's economy, and the other one is looking kind of more limited at, efficiency and workers and maybe even workers' rights and the company itself. You have to look at the overall picture of the country and its economy, okay? All right, let's look at the next paragraph. Secondly, okay, now this is confusing to me. You said you were going to look at both sides. So when you look at both sides, that means you're going to examine 2 different opposing arguments. In that case, you shouldn't have a firstly and a secondly, but you should have a, at the very least, a on the one hand, on the other hand, because it's two opposing arguments. Firstly and secondly work when you're looking at different aspects of the same argument, okay? Which is not what you led us to believe here in your introduction. So let's see what you actually said here. Secondly, in many cases, the employees who work for long hours feel tense, no D here. No. Many, in many cases, the employees who work for long hours feel tense, which results in medical issues and sometimes fatalities. Full stop. For example, an extensive study by Oxford University showed that people working for less time tend to be happier than those who work excessively and get exhausted easily, which makes work more enjoyable, resulting in creative work. All right, this sentence is a little too long and it got kind of lost towards the end. Thus, it's possible to state beyond doubt that happy employees, EES, contribute a lot to a company's creative work. Now, you see what happened here? You actually didn't discuss both sides. You essentially, here you talked about how you don't need to have longer hours to have a successful company. You just need to have the right tools and the right technology. Here, you basically said that when people do work long hours, it's a terrible result. Okay, so you're not actually talking about both sides. You're talking about, you're basically, both paragraphs are talking about the negatives associated with this. Okay, here you're saying, hey, technology is much better, so you don't need to work long hours. And here you're just saying that when you do work long hours, it's disastrous because you become too tired, too tense, and too sick, or whatever. Okay, so it was okay that you used firstly and secondly, but what's not okay is that you said you will discuss both sides. You really didn't. You were essentially discussing why you don't agree with this, and that's it. Okay, but the point is that I shouldn't have to have read your two body paragraphs in order to come to that conclusion. I should have known it here. Okay, this is what I mean by make sure your position is clear throughout your response. Make sure that it's clear from your introduction so that I know where you're going. Okay? To sum up, I can say that smart work is better than hard work, and long working hours are not an instrument to measure economic success of a country. All right, I liked that. It's a little brief, but unfortunately, I don't feel like your essay really actually developed this. You never really talked about the company, but instead you talked about, you never talked about the country is what I meant to say, but instead you talked about the company. And in your second body paragraph, you talked about the worker, him or herself. You never really addressed the country anywhere. All right, and that's one of the other issues. So, that's my feeling about this. I think that task achievement was lacking here. There were grammatical errors that I had to correct throughout, and I actually think it's kind of short. It might be 250 words. Let me just do a really fast check. It's 251 words exactly, which, yeah, it's over the minimum, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a well-developed essay. You could have written more here, and you probably should have written more here. All right, so with that, let's leave your task 2 and go straight to your task 1. All right, careful. You called it a bra chart. A bra is not a chart. A bra is what women wear under their shirts. You meant bar chart, so be careful with that. The given bar chart depicts the information about the leather shoe sales in 9 European countries in 2018. The information is divided into 2 types of leather shoes in 1,000 units. It's really helpful if you can actually cut and paste or copy and paste the image so that I have it to refer to when I'm correcting your essay. It's important for me to have that so that I can help you, with some of the information, with some of the corrections I want to make. But let's see what you wrote. Overall, the brown leather shoes remained, I don't like remained here. Let's try it again. Overall, brown leather shoes were most preferable among 5 out of 9 countries. However, Belgium shows a totally different trend with negligible sales of brown leather. Okay, that's fine. I don't know entirely why you decided to focus on Belgium, but I mean I kind of get it, but I think you could have focused on something else as well, like Hungary, for example, which had the highest number of black leather shoes. But that's fine. It can be noticed that, get rid of the comma here, in all 4 countries where black shoes were sold more, the sales figures remained above 100,000 units and reached the peak of 140,000 units in Hungary. The sales, okay, whereas should be attached to the previous sentence, but then that becomes too long, so get rid of whereas. However, the sales of brown shoes stood at 50,000, 80,000, 102,000, 125,000 in Belgium, Holland, Italy, and UK, respectively. I don't know why you mentioned this. All you told me here was that in 4 countries, black shoes were sold more, and then all of a sudden you started talking to me about brown shoes, so I don't entirely understand the organization of this paragraph. No, not the rest of, but the remaining 5 countries sold brown leather shoes more. I don't understand this. While black shoes were less? I don't really understand that. The highest brown shoes were sold in Poland with 135,000 and least in Belgium with just 5,000 units. However, because we never start sentences with but, however, brown leather remained the most sold among all 9 countries. All right, I'm going to find this for you so I can help you with the kind of information you should have focus on. So give me just 1 second. All right, so let's look at the chart now that I found it. You have the 9 countries. And so first let's talk about what information is considered key information. Key information is obviously black and brown leather. And then the 9 countries, you have to mention them at least once by name. All right? You don't have to go into detail about every little thing, but you do have to mention them by name. So there were a few ways to do this. You started off well, but you started off with like the 4 out of the 5 countries that preferred black, or maybe it was the 5 out of the 9 that preferred brown, and then you kind of flip-flopped. So let's look at that. All right, this is what you said. You talked about the 4 countries where black shoes were sold more than 10,000, and then you talked about Hungary. And then all of a sudden you went to brown leather shoes, which I thought was a little strange. So let's talk about what you could have done in that paragraph instead. The first thing that I would have done here is I too would have talked about black leather shoes first, because if you look at it, it's the highest figure in the chart, and that's an important thing to mention. So what would I have done? I would have said that of the 9 countries, 4 countries sold over 100,000 shoes. Starting first with Hungary, it sold 140,000 shoes, which was the highest figure of any shoe color in any country. Following closely were Italy, Belgium, and UK at just over 100,000. Okay? You could say that. So then you're done with that. Then what I would say is, look here. Look at France. You didn't even mention France. I would have said that France sold the least number of black leather shoes at roughly 35,000. The remaining countries, and then just name them so that you're safe: Germany, Ireland, Holland, and Poland all sold between 50,000 and 100,000 units. And then you can do exactly the same thing with a paragraph about brown leather shoes. You can say that 4 countries, all right, sure, 5 countries sold between 100,000 and 150,000 brown leather shoes. In order, they were Poland, Hungary, Italy, and Ireland. Okay? Did I miss Germany? Sorry. Poland, Hungary, Germany, You can even mention that they had the same number, Italy and Ireland. The least number of shoes were sold were in Belgium. This was the lowest number of any type of shoe sale in the entire chart. Okay, so you want to mention that. And then you could say the remaining 3 countries, France, UK, and Holland, all sold between, and if you want, you can get specific here, between 125 and 140,000 brown leather shoes. And then that's it, you're done. All right, you've mentioned all the countries, you've mentioned all the key information, you've pointed out the highest, the lowest, the highest, the lowest, and then you just kind of lumped together some of this middle information, which you really don't want to spend a lot of time on. All right, but that's the way to do this, okay? And I would have split the black paragraph and then the brown paragraph. So those are some of my suggestions. Now, is that the only way to do this? No, of course not. There are lots of different ways to do this. But this is one way that I personally feel is effective, it's clean, it's clear, and you're getting in all the important points, okay? So take that information into consideration. Let's see how you correct these tasks. I think in your email you mentioned something about just correcting your task 2. I'm not really sure. I thought I saw something about that. We will be correcting your new tasks, all right? The previous tasks that you correct are really just for your benefit so that you can, do this exercise so that you can improve. All right, so that's what I suggest here. Let's see what you write in your next set. I hope you can apply some of this information. I'll be waiting to see what you write next, so good luck.